Non-duality is a deep idea found in spiritual traditions like Advaita Vedanta and Zen Buddhism. It means that everything is one and that the separations we see between things are not real. But this idea is hard to understand with our usual way of thinking. Our minds naturally divide things into categories: good and bad, self and other, inside and outside. This helps us make sense of the world and make decisions. However, non-duality says that these divisions are just illusions. Trying to understand non-duality with the mind, which relies on these divisions, is like trying to see the whole sky through a small window. It doesn't work. Non-duality isn't something we can fully understand by thinking about it or talking about it. It's more of an experience or a realization. Spiritual practices like meditation or self-inquiry help us experience this directly. These practices quiet the mind and help us see beyond the usual ways we categorize the world. Teachers of non-duality often use puzzles or stories that don't make sense to the logical mind. For example, the Zen question, "What is the sound of one hand clapping?" isn't meant to be answered logically. It's meant to push the mind beyond its usual limits and help us experience a deeper truth. Realizing non-duality means moving beyond the sense of being a separate individual. This can be challenging because it goes against everything we've learned about who we are. But those who have had this experience often describe a deep peace and a feeling of being connected to everything. Non-duality is hard to understand with our usual thinking because it goes beyond the way our minds work. It needs to be experienced directly, beyond thoughts and words. It shows us a reality where everything is interconnected and the separations we see are just illusions. Are you ready to drop the mind and dive into the heart of non-duality? Welcome, everyone. Today, we're talking about non-duality and why trying to understand it through your mind is pointless. Instead, we'll explore how to experience it directly, beyond all concepts and ideas. So, let's dive in. Non-duality isn't something you can grasp with your mind. It's not a concept or an idea that you can figure out through thinking. However, right now, I'm being forced to use language to point it out, as there is no other way to point it out other than using language and concepts. Know the fact that language is already a limitation in itself. Ultimately, you cannot think your way into non-duality. It's an energetic experience. It is a felt experience where you have dropped all conceptual thinking. In fact, the more you try to understand non-duality with your mind, the more confused you'll get. Non-duality is about direct experience, not intellectual understanding. Those who like to argue about these concepts, trying to correct them or trying to make me wrong, fall into the same illusion of trying to understand this, and they don't even realize it. As I have already told you, I'm just using concepts as pointers, not in a way to understand them, but to direct you to that realization. Our minds love to categorize, label, and analyze. But non-duality is about transcending all these mental constructs. It's about experiencing the oneness of everything directly, without the interference of the mind's chatter. Remember, non-duality is felt, not thought. To truly know non-duality, you have to drop all concepts and dive into the experience itself. Let's talk about the mind for a moment. The mind is an amazing tool. It helps us solve problems, create plans, and navigate the world. But when it comes to understanding non-duality, the mind falls short. Why? Because the mind thrives on duality. It sees everything in terms of opposites. Good and bad, right and wrong, me and you. Non-duality, on the other hand, is about the unity of all things. It's about seeing beyond these opposites to the underlying oneness. The mind can't comprehend this because it's used to thinking in dualities. That's why trying to understand non-duality with your mind leads to more confusion. So, how do we move beyond the mind's limitations and experience non-duality? The key is to drop all concepts. Let go of the need to understand, explain, or analyze. Instead, focus on direct experience. Think of concepts like filters on a camera. They change how we see things, but they're not the true picture. To see clearly, we need to remove the filters. Similarly, to experience non-duality, we need to drop our concepts and see things as they truly are. There are many misunderstandings about non-duality. Some people think it's about rejecting the world or living in a state of constant bliss. But true non-duality is about embracing all of life, seeing the unity in every experience, and understanding that everything is interconnected. It's not about escaping reality, but about fully engaging with it from a place of deeper understanding. It's about seeing beyond the surface and recognizing the oneness that underlies everything. Although non-duality is not an understanding or concept, we use language as a pointer rather than getting attached to words and ideas. Language inherently creates duality. It does that. There is nothing you can do. Just accept that fact. When we say non-duality, we immediately set up a duality between duality and non-duality, which doesn't make sense to your mind. And that's okay, because the mind is designed to understand things, to question and to conceptualize. Nothing wrong with that, it's just its nature to do that. Language is a tool, a guide to point you towards the experience, but it is not the experience itself. Don't get caught up in the words. Use them as stepping stones to move beyond them into the direct experience. Imagine language as a map. The map isn't the territory. It just helps you navigate it. Similarly, words about non-duality are not non-duality. They just guide you toward the experience. So, approach these teachings with the understanding that words and concepts are temporary tools, meant to be transcended. The real treasure lies beyond the words, in the silent, direct experience of oneness. The moment you say there is an it to talk about, you are already doing it wrong. We are only using words and ideas as pointers because we don't have any other way to point this out, other than using language itself. As the Buddha said, don't talk about it. Instead, let the experience speak for itself. Let your direct, wordless experience guide you to the truth of non-duality. In conclusion, non-duality is not something to be understood with the mind. It's an experience that goes beyond concepts and ideas. To truly know non-duality, you have to drop all concepts and dive into the direct experience. Practice meditation, mindfulness, self-inquiry, and silence. Let go of labels and judgments. Embrace the present moment fully. Remember, non-duality is felt, not thought. It's about connecting with the deeper truth of who you are and experiencing the oneness of all things. Thank you for joining me today. May your journey towards experiencing non-duality be filled with insights, empowerment, and profound connection. This is Change Your Life signing off with gratitude. Much love and blessings. Peace.